Summertime. Okay, so I will call the regular meeting of the City Commission in order for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. It is about 7:03. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Mengelberg? Here. Mayor Holliday?
Here. Please stand and join me in flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I want to welcome Captain Davis, standing in for Chief Band, who is on another interminable vacation. We have no ceremonies or proclamations. How many citizen comments do we have, Ms. Riggs?
Quite a few. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-ish.
12-ish. Okay, so if you're here to talk about the Whitewater Park, can you raise your hand for me, please? All right. So I've had a little bit of discussion with the commission president. If you folks could refrain from repeating each other, it would be helpful. That's a lot of time and a lot of citizen comment, and we have other stuff to get to tonight. So,
however, the commission president also said if the public wants to use their entire 3 minutes, they should.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get started. Is the list on my?
Yeah, if you click
Sorry.
on the floor.
Okay, so we'll start them two at a time as they are listed. Jerry Herman and Rolla Harding. Good on the floor.
This is any citizen comment. You can come forward. It's not just about the...
But it's on 7A.
It should just be regular citizen.
Are you here, Rolla? Are you here for something that's on the agenda?
Yes, sort of.
No.
I talked to him about it before. He's going to go...
Okay, all right.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
we had a conference earlier.
Okay. Mr. Herman.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I think what I'm going to share with you is something you probably never heard before. In 1983, there was an effort to build a small hydro plant at the falls by PGE. It was to be a 100-megawatt plant. That's basically 4 times as big as what is generated across the river at the T.W. Sullivan plant. I was on that committee. I was the token environmentalist, and everybody was saying, build it with these provisions, build it with these provisions, and we, myself and one other, said, don't build it, because the falls are going to be dry if you do this. The flow will be so diminished that there'll be no flow over the falls between April and November. And PGE also was concerned about downstream migrants of fish and upstream evolution of fish, and the result was they agreed it was in the best interest to not build the 100-megawatt plant on the east side of the river right by the old Station location. Now, what does this have to do with tonight? I think when I met Sam Drabo about 10 years ago, he had a lot of enthusiasm and such, and I feel that this sports center has another element that isn't being considered that I'd like to have you still consider the possibilities. Fish passage at the falls is not good. Upstream migrants don't do well because of the turbulence on the west side of the river. Downstream migrants are being shunted down a slot now called the bladder. Your falls has a bladder on it, in case you didn't know that. That does that release of water and so forth. And I believe that if this project can be kept in the thinking stage and agencies work with it, there's all sorts of other revenue streams that could come in for fish and wildlife benefits to see marmot, river otter, and other things be a part of what you'd see as you go through the walk in the area called your legacy project. And I would ask that you consider that opportunity for Sam to use a little bit of his creativeness. I'm willing to help, and I know agency people that would. They're really trying to solve these downstream migrant issues, and this possibly could help. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good, Jerry.
Mr. Harding.
Rolla and Marge Harding, of course, we are familiar to you perhaps for what we've done in terms of heritage and heritage tourism. I know you got an important issue that you're going to be discussing later. I have a related issue. That's why we met and talked about it earlier. And it has to do with some of the benefits of Not this particular program necessarily, but the idea of some type of organized effort in the way of tourism. One of the examples of the benefits of an organized approach to tourism is an event that's going to take place September 18th through the 20th in Albany, Oregon. It's called Spotlight on the Northwest. This is a very successful program that has operated across the United States in different parts, usually a regional approach. This is where tour operators, the people who arrange the tours, take people around, are meeting with destination providers. That's both businesses that deal with tourism as well as destinations that deal with tourism. This is a 2.5-day event where they have a chance to get together, where the tour operators have a chance to be exposed to, in this case, Northwest sites and businesses related to tourism, and also make arrangements for tours. This is the first time in the Northwest it's happened. Next year, they're going to be in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. They've been in the Southwest. It's operating in several parts. We feel this is a really an important event. It's sponsored by most of the major tourism organizations in Oregon. For instance, the Oregon Tour and Travel Association, OTA, is really promoting it from the standpoint of how important it can be to, for in our case, destination, well, in our case, businesses as well that relate to tourism. Marge and I are considering going as ambassadors. We've talked with you before about the ambassador situation, and we have gotten your support on that. It's very expensive. It's about $1,000 plus lodging. So we're going to be talking to other tourism-related businesses in Oregon City to see if we could get support. To our knowledge, in talking to the people arranging this, Clackamas County is not represented anywhere. I know places like Bend, and those places are going to be there. So we feel it's important, and we're going to be talking to these different sites. Normally, these arrangements would be made by some kind of tourism organization in the community. It could be a visitors association, which we, to my knowledge, have never had, or at least recently.
Your light's
Darren,
on.
you have a question for me.
No, your light's on, and,
My light's
we've
on.
got a bunch of other
Okay.
people to get to.
So, it's in closing, it's time for a plan, and you can see the advantages of a plan in participating in these kinds of activities.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Harry Dalgard and Ben Hawkinson.
Howdy guys, my name is Harry Dalgard. I am with Travel Oregon. I work on our destination development team at Travel Oregon. I was also part of Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs Grant Review Committee in terms of supporting the Whitewater Park, and I'm just here to express our support for the Whitewater project and the possibility of a Whitewater project as it's included with the Riverwalk concept and the Willamette Falls Legacy concept. We think this is the opportunity for Oregon City to put itself on the worldwide map in regards to developing outdoor recreation infrastructure. And outdoor recreation infrastructure is something that we believe is part and parcel to the Oregon tourism experience. And the Oregon tourism experience is a major economic driver now in the state. In 2015, we recently passed the $10 billion mark in regards to visitor spending in the state of Oregon. So this is an industry that is a growth industry, and this is an industry that will continue to grow over the coming years. And if you look at the places around the state that are really benefiting from all this visitor spending, it's places that are thoroughly integrating the recreation-based economy into their tourism products. So if you look at places like Bend and Hood River and Ashland, the opportunity for the visitor, traveler, or tourist to come in and experience an amazing outdoor experience is so close at hand. And this is really Oregon City's opportunity to include itself with that list of amazing tourist destinations within Oregon and within the western United States. If you look at Bend, for example, a community that is very similar in regards to what it is experienced in regards to taking a historic mill structure and then introducing first commerce center, and then only latter introducing a whitewater park. If you go over Jackson Street and you look at how busy that park is and how packed it is with tourists, well, they're surfing, they're on kayaks, they're on absolutely every single vessel you can imagine, and that was an afterthought in that project. If that were integrated into the whole vision from the onset, you would really have a more holistic experience. And I think that's really the opportunity that Oregon City has today, is to craft a holistic experience and an experience that is world class. And as an aside, I grew up right in Westland, and I'm an avid outdoor enthusiast. And I live in Southeast Portland. I would love to come down after work every day and come and recreate. In Oregon City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Ben Hokinson. I am an Oregon City resident as well as an Oregon City small business owner. And I'm also an active outdoor recreationist. I moved here not because Oregon City was like a hub for fun and recreation, but like many people, it's convenient. It's outskirts of Portland. It's cheaper than Westland and Portland. And I would love to see Oregon City be the place people move here because of the activity and the chance we have to get out and recreate. I know myself, as well as many of my colleagues and people that enjoy the same sports, when we're not here working or with our families, we leave Oregon City to go elsewhere. Like he mentioned, Hood River, Bend, that's where we spend our time to do these things. And I would love to see Oregon City be a place where people come here for that reason, and residents stay here for that reason, not because of simply its convenience and it's a cheaper place to live. Certainly, Oregon City's grown on me, which is awesome. I moved here in 2008, so a lot of amazing changes happened so far. So, thank the city for that and everybody else involved. But I would also love to see this option 2 stay on the table and just see where it might work out. I think it's going to be a really benefit for small business owners as well as general commerce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up we have Nathan, I'm going to probably mess this up, Maudlin, and Elizabeth Fowler. Sir.
Good evening, and yes, you did get my name right. Nathan Maudlin. I live here in the Historic District, so thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've lived in Oregon City for my whole life, and for over 125 years, my relatives have worked, played, and lived at the base of the Willamette Falls, and many have enjoyed the falls in similar ways on the water in non-motorized boats. The Willamette Falls are part of the reason my family has lived here so long. They are a beautiful way to experience nature and have created work, enjoyment and education opportunities for my family and many others in Oregon City. It is the wish of many residents here that the falls remain and improve as a source of recreation, education, and economic success. I'm here today to encourage the city commissioners to keep kayakers and canoers in mind when discussing designs for the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, an option I believe would best align with the history and recreational values of the residents of this city. When I was 9, I experienced the falls in a way that is no longer possible for us. I joined family and friends from Oregon City in a 4-hour canoe trip to Clackamas Park from the other side of the falls via the locks. It was a spectacular way to enjoy the nature to which we have access in Oregon City. In order to fully appreciate our falls, we need access and a safe connection for kayakers and canoes. A portage trail, or ideally a water trail like a whitewater park, would be the most efficient way of bypassing the falls for non-motorized boats, allowing them to safely make the trip I did 10 years ago. Allowing more access to the falls for non-motorized boaters will not only create opportunities for enjoyment and appreciation of the falls, but also honor the history and tradition of past generations. It will provide the opportunity for families who can't get away for a very long time to enjoy an exciting part of nature in their own backyard, and it would encourage others to visit Oregon City. Boating access to the falls will provide the potential to educate about water safety, sustainability, fish migration, and our shared history. It will be something that future residents will remember us by. At this point, I urge the commissioners to consider non-motorized boaters in the designs at Willamette Falls, keeping in mind that there is currently no path from above the falls to below. I hope that access to the falls through a water portage trail will be a permanent addition to current design criteria. This type of access is represented by option 2 on the decision matrix. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Fowler?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Fowler. I am an Oregon City resident, born here, lived here pretty much my whole life, founding member of Main Street, Oregon City. The only Main Street I've ever really seen in my life here was one that was starting to die, dead, and now starting to be revived. And I really want to thank the commission over the years for all your support of Main Street, because it's amazing. Where do I start? Not only is this going to be a tourism attraction, it promotes a healthy lifestyle activity that you can do your whole life. It can be enjoyed your whole life. It's not age limiting. Not only have there been studies on how it helps the water environment and fish habitats, and I just don't understand, to be honest, why we would try to kill a possibility. Possibilities are endless. Our whole country is founded on the ideal of possibilities. So until knowing completely what this possibility might present, I just don't think we should kill it. Not only about job creation, I could go on and on and on, but ultimately, you know, the whole reason that we even are in Oregon City is because of the falls. We've been disconnected from the falls for so long. We need to find a way to reconnect our community with the falls in a very tangible way. And this could be that tangible way. So again, I just ask you, don't kill a possibility before you know if it's possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, Gavin Woods and Deborah Melnichenko.
Wow.
Hi, Gavin.
So, Gavin, you're up.
All right, hello. I'm Gavin Woods. I'm one of the new paddlers that's working for Sam Drivo.
City residents, please.
Oh, yes. I'm a city resident in Oregon
Okay.
City. So I've been new. I've been learning the new techniques of paddling and everything from Sam. I'm a graduate from Oregon City High School. I started just a few months ago, and basically just like learning the techniques of kayaking and everything. And if we had a whitewater park that was local, it would be an awesome place to learn like safety techniques, you know, water rescue and stuff like that, and a place that's, you know, a lot more controlled than an actual open, you know, water. And it's a great place just for me to practice learning how to do whitewater kayaking without having to go miles away. I definitely recommend you keep the idea going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Melnichenko. I am an Oregon City resident since 2000, and I'm a teacher at Athey Creek Middle School in West Lynn. But don't hold it against me. No.
We've lately established a level of détente with West Lynn, so.
No, I'm sorry.
Go
That's
ahead.
part of my deal here, though, because I have to kayak, I have to cross the bridge and put in on the West Lynn side. Where formerly, when we moved here in 2000, we first started kayaking, we'd put in at Coelho Landing. Do you know where that is? That's the park that's closed now. And we would put in, and yeah, there's no more access. There's a big gate there, and nobody lets you in. And I wish that park was accessible, because the Oregon City side of the Willamette has these beautiful channels that you kayak in, but you have to go in through where the Tualatin meets the Willamette, And then you go on the Westland channels, which are fine, but the Oregon City side are where I want to go. So if we could also explore why the Coelho Landing has been closed and possibly see if that could be accessible for an Oregon City side above the falls for kayakers to put in. Recently, my husband and I last week went to Bend, and we saw the beautiful river that the Deschutes has become so popular with at the Mill District. We ate there a couple of times, and the river just lures you in, and we went on the river walk. We actually rented kayaks there in order to get on the water. We wanted to float it. We wanted to just be there. We watched the surfers. We watched the tubers. We watched, we just stood on the bridge and just said, we got to have this in Oregon City. It's a possibility. It would be so great if they could establish something very similar, and it would just be a huge, huge draw commercially as well as for the river. What else was I wanting to say? Oh yeah, my son is a whitewater enthusiast, and he has to go to Sheep Falls and all these insane places, and he would very much like to see something like that where he could to a degree, I don't know if they would allow you to go over the falls themselves, but something. No.
Yeah.
I think his friend has done it in a kayak, actually, illegally. So we don't want that, but we want something for all people to be able to get to the river and to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, Tony, what's this landing place? Are you familiar?
I'm not.
What was the name of that again?
Okay.
It's right next door to Bill Kennemer's house.
Oh, okay. So that's a county park.
State park.
It's a state.
State park.
They closed it because of railroad access. They didn't want people crossing there during railroad.
Probably should be on a mic.
Okay, thanks. Next up, Catherine Toth and Travis Kruger.
Hello, my name is Catherine Toth, and I am determined to stay within the 3-minute minimum. I am a resident of Oregon City, and I have 2 points that I feel are very valid. The first point is I run 2 small businesses. One of them is with ESCH Homestay. I tutor and also provide a homestay and tourism for international students. The majority of my students are from Asia, and when they come here, I offer on my profile, one of the main things I offer on the profile for Oregon City is the kayaking. Of course, we're near Portland, and when my students are with me, I take them to the Pearl District, to Powell's Bookstore, and my husband always takes them to the falls. He takes them paddling to the falls, and I do the museums, Pioneer Square, but at the end of the day, 9 out of 10 of my students will tell me that their favorite experience was paddling up to the falls. So in that regard, I really think that if we could really improve that area, and I think it's just, there's so much with the falls. I think we all know that the falls are a gem and they're special for this area. So please, 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 as a small business owner offering tourism and homestay, kayaking is really great, and it really is meaningful for my students. The other small business I run is, and it's just during the summer, but it's I do kayak sales, and within 6 weeks, I can make move over $15,000 in kayaks. And I've been doing this for 4 years, and I found sales are just, people are buying as soon as May, and they love it. And it's August, and I'm still getting calls. And there is a huge and developing kayaking paddling community. People are very enthusiastic about it. It's affordable, it's sustainable, and paddling is very environmentally friendly, and it's an incredible way to really be connected with the river. If boats are really fun and that's really great, but when you are paddling, you are touching the water, you're in the water, you're connected with the environment, the birds, and so please, please, please consider that.
Thank you.
I'm Travis Kruger. I'll go fast. I'm an Oregon City resident, native Oregonian. I'm here to encourage designing the Riverwalk in a way to make sure we don't preclude a future whitewater channel. That's kind of the bottom line here. And but someone else mentioned it, Oregon City's really behind the curve in outdoor tourism, and I think that's a shame. My family also looks elsewhere when we go do things. So right now we have a big opportunity to turn that bus around, and I think we should keep doing our due diligence and looking into it. So I'm a civil engineer, and I was asked by Sam and We Love Clean Rivers to study the feasibility for a whitewater channel on the Clackamas drainage. And what we found is there's really no feasible site in the Northwest short of Willamette Falls. So we learned that it's very feasible, mainly because we have the flows, we have the drop, we have the proximity to the population center, we have the support of the community, and George, let's not forget the guy that owns the lot, right? So the site could function without expensive pumping and because of the drop. So we could incorporate a hydroelectric demonstration project. So the cool thing is you could operate this site basically without power. Most of the whitewater parks, they have to use expensive pumps, so no power. The finance guys, you like that, right? Good idea. So
a very happy no comment from Mr. Parno.
So I was on the Bend Whitewater Park design team as an engineer on the preliminary phase, and when we got started, I have to admit I didn't think there's any way we could get it built. We had huge permitting challenges, and we had no funding, which that's always a problem, right, guys? Again. So the community, businesses, and local government really rallied behind the project, and we got it built. And basically, those people created a true legacy for Bend that's going to be there forever. And we have that type of support here in Oregon City and Clackamas County. So I'm a whitewater slalom racer, and I have a dog in this fight. I dream of Oregon City kids qualifying for the Olympics. But it's really not just about kayaks. A safe and local site would create use ranging from law enforcement and first responder training to youth camps that go rafting and inner tubing and looking at the falls, like you mentioned. So this is really an unmatched site. Our region is realistically not going to have another opportunity at this scale. I really don't. We can't disrespect the site with status quo. So this is really an opportunity to create a true legacy, not just more of the same. How many Starbucks and brew pubs can we tolerate? Let's do something really cool here. So anyway, please help create a true legacy, support the middle path for the whitewater facility, and we just don't want it to die. I think the site could be designed in a way that you could accommodate it later on. We'll figure out all the challenges. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blaine Meyer and Don Smith.
Who's going first?
Blaine's going first.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday, Commissioners, thanks for your service tonight. I appreciate it. My name is Blaine Meyer, and I live in unincorporated Oregon City. I own 2 tourism-related businesses here in the Oregon City limits, and just wanted to come and voice my support for the Whitewater project. But before I do that, I wanted to say I'm very excited about the tourism concept plan, and yes, thank you. I hope that goes through, and I want to support that. But I also want to encourage, back to the Whitewater, the Commission to adopt option 2 with regard to the project and the Riverwalk design. There are 4 things I listen to things that people say and about this project, and 4 things I've learned. One is the Whitewater Park has potential for tourism and for economic benefit. People have mentioned that. Second, there is general public support for this project. Third, the Whitewater Park introduces issues and complications that could delay the river walk. And then finally, I haven't heard anybody that says they want to have the Riverwalk delayed. No one wants that. And so is there a way to get both in? I think there is. But given these considerations, I think there are 3 approaches that you folks have to decide, and they've been laid out at one of the previous meetings. One is to integrate the plans. Let's just go for it. Let's do them both at the same time. The other one is let's do the option 2, which is a flexible plan, and let's design the Riverwalk in such a way that doesn't exclude the possibility of a whitewater park. And the third is no water park at all. Not going to have it. Others here tonight, they've talked about the potential, so I won't talk the potential of the parks. I won't talk about that. But I do want to address 3 objections that I've heard to the whitewater park. One is that there's no funding for it, and a bond may have to be floated or offered to make it work. Just a comment that does not have to be decided now. And option 2 allows that to be worked out at a later time. Most large projects like this have funding problems. They're always a challenge. And if that were the only issue, if funding were the only issue, a lot of these projects would never happen. So that just has to be worked out. So lack of funding, to me, is a concern, but it's not enough of a reason to adopt option 3 and to kill the Whitewater Park project. Option 2 allows that to happen. Second one is PGE won't share the water rights. With low flows in June, July, August particularly, and it may be true. I don't know. I haven't talked to PG, but I don't know that to be true. And I would like to see a hydrologist report on that, and I'd also like to see a letter from PG saying this is an issue and we can't do it. We won't do it. I haven't seen those. They may be there, but I haven't seen them. The third is that the Whitewater Channel will take up too much buildable land at the Blue Heron site. I think that's a valid concern. Again, I would like to see that. To me, that would be determined really by the landowner and by George Heideggerken.
Blaine, you're out of time.
I'm out of time. Okay, so I encourage option 2. I think that allows all of this to happen and gives us time to work that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Don Smith. I'm a homeowner here in Oregon City for 17 years. I think it's relevant to bring up, I'm the executive director for Disabled American Veterans in Portland, and we come to know Sam through adaptive recreation. We're very big in adaptive recreation at Chapter 1. We could talk about that more later. I would like to point out that I'm not a kayaker. Actually, we're power boaters and bicyclists, but we know a lot of kayakers, actually. And like others said, thanks to you guys, downtown's looking really good. We actually stick around to eat and hang out now. Very cool there. I was on Parks and Rec Advisory Committee for a couple years trying to help forward this kind of a vision. I believe that the Willamette Waterfall project is a solid revenue opportunity. We have a lot of others we can look to who've already done it. This is not brand new. I think I got a little bit of experience that is relevant to make a judgment. I was a director of revenue for a large aquatic recreation company, and we built parks in Phoenix, Sacramento, and Concord. Different kind of park, but definitely recreation. And those were public-private partnerships that were built with private money, with a lot of government help, that were run by private concerns, and they worked, and they're still open. I think that should be considered. I can understand why the city wouldn't want to take on something that seems like a big unknown, but to those of us who have been in it, it's not an unknown. This is a pretty good idea. And I just want you to go for option 2. Please, let's make this happen. It would be really cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your service, sir.
Thank you.
Matt Taylor and Brett Hostetler.
Good evening. My name is Brett Hostetler, and I'm a resident here for about a year and a half. Grew up in Canby, lived in Portland around. Not a kayaker, but I'm in 100%. I got a couple kids, and I'd love to see them be able to experience the river fully instead of just viewing it and A lot of good things were said here tonight, and so I won't repeat them.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Taylor. I'm a two-time Olympian in whitewater canoeing, but I love power boats too and other forms of recreation.
Sir, what's your city of residence?
Oh, Portland
Okay,
City.
thank you.
Yeah. However, that's germane here because I chose to live in Portland partially out of the access to water and recreational activities.
I was just asking for the record.
No, it's good. It's good. That's part of my spiel here is that I've traveled around the world and seen cities that have been rejuvenated by water. And you have one of the superlative features of the world right here. And it's this Willamette Falls, and you have an opportunity with a whitewater park to get people in the water and connected to the water in a way very different than just having a waterfall. And so I've seen this in Europe, I've seen it in Australia, I've seen it in South America, and I've seen it in the United States. And I think that the opportunity, as the gentleman said earlier, is once in a lifetime. Keep option 2. You can build a little tunnel to put the whitewater park right through if you have the Riverwalk, and you have the best of both worlds. I also managed one of the only pump whitewater courses in the country back in Maryland before my now golden era here in Oregon. And it was a challenge. The pump courses are expensive, and I dreamed of having just a waterfall to manage as opposed to expensive pumps to recirculate the water. And yet that was still a boon to that community and to the vision of healthy, active outdoor lifestyles. So again, you've got this great opportunity. You will find the funding, not you, but this project will. I have never seen one of these projects attract as much excitement and support as quickly as this is done. And thanks to Sam and to all the other Oregon City residents who kind of pounced on it and realized that this is a gold mine in your backyard.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
William Gifford and Justine Kisby.
Oh, thank you. Okay, hi, my name is Justine Kilsby. I live in Portland. However, I'm here as the River Rescue Program Coordinator for AMR. And I also work on an ambulance 911 for Clackamas County. So I kind of call this my backyard. I'm here to kind of give the public safety view of what a water park could really bring to our community. And the biggest thing for me is the number one thing that gets people into trouble, often hours away from local fire departments or anyone who can help them, is inexperience. And quite frankly, there's nowhere that's close or safe or in any way controlled that people can kind of gain that whitewater experience. And I would really love to see something like this in our community that could not only give kids and adults kind of the experience that they need to really decide to go up to the White Salmon or decide to go to the Upper Clackamas, which is my personal nightmare, in an inflatable inner tube they bought from Kmart so that we just had to do last week. And I really think just having something like this that they could test their skills or learn how to safely use the water would really change how Oregon City people and Portland in general approaches sometimes the dangerous water that we have locally. And second is that what a great training opportunity for local fire departments, paramedics, water rescue personnel like myself. There's a big place in Nevada that really draws a lot of water diving work, but what an opportunity. And I have to say, as far as people who pay to rent out an entire water park, fire departments definitely will put down the money. So not only would you have that in your backyard for all our local departments, but it could also be a draw on the statewide and maybe in the Pacific Northwest scale. So I hope you consider both the public safety for your citizenry and also for your responders, so you can kind of sharpen up our skills and make sure that we're there when people need us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Father Time.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. I'm speaking tonight for the Oregon City Business Alliance, of which I'm secretary. And we have already submitted a letter to the city regarding our opinion on the Whitewater Park issue. I want to say two simple things. First of all, we do not think that this is the time to unequivocally support the Whitewater Park. This is not the time to support it. Also, it is not the time to reject it. We strongly urge that you consider option 2, get more information. I understand that there's a meeting on August 11th, is that correct, with the partners?
15th, I think.
15th, one of those odd numbers. There'll be a meeting soon with the partners of the Legacy Project, and they will be making a decision on this. At the last work session, the city pretty much led the direction of that committee, or of that partnership, to move away from support and into option 3. We are here to, well, a lot of other people, but the Oregon City Business Alliance would like to encourage you to reverse that position and move towards option 2, which is at least keep your options open. This is not a time for obstruction. It's not a time for wild adoption, but it's not a time for obstruction. So I'm asking you that you consider option 2.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thelma Hagenmiller and Jim Austin. Miller, I'm sorry.
True.
Especially from Thelma.
Exactly.
Yes, especially from me. Good evening. I wasn't planning to speak, but my name is Thelma Hagenmiller, and I live in unincorporated Oak Grove.
There you go.
I'm here, and like I said, I wasn't planning to speak, so I just wrote down a couple of notes. One of the beauties of living in Oregon, and particularly this part of Oregon, has been the water. Most of my original experience was on the Columbia River, but now it's shifting to the Willamette. And I've spent years and years and years driving over to the Deschutes. My grandson, who is now 30 years old, when he got his driver's license, went over there and signed on as a raft guide for one of the companies, grew up over there, paid his college expenses being a raft guide, and as a raft guide he got into kayaking. And I'm in the tourism business, so I can tell you the economic benefit of my grandson. He has traveled around the world to other rivers with 12 of his closest friends just to go kayaking. So to have, and he's in Seattle right now working at some firm up there, and to be able to tell him that there's a place here where he can come down and go kayaking on a whitewater at the falls would just thrill him no end. So just don't cut us off at the neck or anything. I don't know what the options you have in front of you, but please just keep considering this.
Jim?
My name is Jim Austin. I'm a resident of Portland, Oregon, and I can honestly say that I travel to Oregon City at least 4 days a week, exclusively for tourism. It's because I work for Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs.
The truth is out.
Yes. So I'm kind of approaching this issue as Harry Dalgard does from Travel Oregon as a destination marketing organization. This is a truly rare opportunity. We've been interested in this and supporting this effort for several years through our development grant process. In 2013, we provided some funds for a feasibility study to look at a whitewater park on the Clackamas River. In our 2014 grant cycle, we provided the funds that helped support the prospective economic analysis of a whitewater park at the falls, as well as the conceptual design study at the falls. And from all the stuff that we look at, there's significant benefits to be had from having this feature here. As a destination marketing organization, this would be a dream project that we could easily promote and compel people to come here. We've also been big supporters from the get-go of the Riverwalk. In 2014, we provided $100,000 for early concept designs for the Riverwalk. So we view these both as very beneficial projects. We don't at all think they're mutually exclusive. From the potential design schematics that we've seen, they could both coexist. It does take a little more effort to sort of try to figure out how to piece them together. But this is as has been said before, this is a really rare opportunity, and I think that if at all possible, if there's a way to keep the door open for this, not preclude the development of one, the water trail or the Whitewater Park would leave the door open for a great opportunity that you might not have an opportunity to take advantage of in the future.
So are you speaking for Clackamas County Tourism?
Kind of, yes. just
well, you don't get it.
Yes.
One way or the other.
Yes.
Okay.
You asked me what. So, but we've supported it in concept in the past. So, we've had investments in it. We think there's merit here. So, we'd just like to see if possible, the option be left open.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Kind of, yes.
James Nacita and I'm going to say Miss Maudlin because I'll screw up the first name for sure.
Do you want to go first? Hello, my name is Jolene Maudlin, so the first name is Jolene, and I'm going to go for option 2. I just want to keep options open. I live in Oregon City here in the McLaughlin neighborhood, and if we could put a kayak in the elevator and go down it, if my 14-foot kayak could work in it, I would be down the river from our house over here and over there just pretty quickly. It doesn't work. I don't want to climb the stairs back up. 1891, Carrie Hargreaves, my great-grandfather, canoed on the river. He tipped over. He was very wet, but we do have all the way back about 100 years now that our family has been on this river. So we fast forward to 1991, and I started going on the river. I had no idea about that story until much later. So we've been on this river. We've enjoyed it. I'm going to just speak because one of the topics that does not come up is through like Boy Scouts. And I've worked for the last 14 years with scouting programs here in the Oregon City and the Canby area, with the river, with kayaking, with canoeing. We've gone from the Canby Ferry down to the Willamette. We get into the old location that everybody is saying is now closed. We go through the Narrows, we go through the little islands over there. It's been a great place. We do a lot of sustainability. We have merit badges for wildlife and fishing, kayaking, canoeing. It is a great opportunity to get the kids out of the computers, off of their iPods. Probably if there was, Pokemon out there, we could get the kids out there paddling. But that doesn't, I hope that there's no Pokemon out on the river.
Almost as safe as going into the
There we go.
Pokemon.
There's a new bet on that.
But it is an opportunity right here in our backyard to get these kids out there. And it's a place to get them so that they can train, to learn, to be safe. And to travel someplace to summer camp and do it for 1 week doesn't give them those skills. And so to be able to do it on a regular basis, our troop has about 5 canoes and then a number of kayaks, and every year our kids are out there. We go down to the quarry down here and we do some training so that the kids can get used to on a flat area, and then we take them out onto the rivers. And we do the Clackamas, we do the Willamette. It is sad that we can't get into the river from the Oregon City side. We have to go all the way around and hope that there's space over at the Willamette parking lot to be able to get in. And it's kind of an awkward place to get down onto the river there. It'd be wonderful to have something that was a little bit more attainable. So I really would like to support that, 100 years of the river being open. I hope the future, for the next 5 generations, another 100 years, that we have it accessible for youth to be able to use what's in our own backyard. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Nacita, live in Oregon City. I want to make a few comments on the Whitewater Park because I think it is a bit unique in being able to satisfy all 4 of the Willamette Falls Legacy Project's core values. Obviously, I'm quite interested in historic interpretation and historic preservation, and the paper that I distributed to you has to do with how the Whitewater Park could advance both interpretation and historic preservation. I have found some amazing information recently on the locks that the People's Transportation Company had actually designed for the Oregon City side of the river. And I was stunned at how advanced their planning had gone, even to the discussion of lift design. Well, the Whitewater Park, one of the scenarios has the design of a raft lift. And, that kind of, you could evoke, those past thoughts of the steamboat companies and how you get folks from the bottom of the river to the top of top of the basin there. Public access is another one of the core values. Obviously, this Whitewater Park would expand the ability to access the falls. You would have not only whitewater kayaks, but sea kayaks that would have not just a land access to the falls, but actual physical boat and kayak access to the falls. As far as economic development, I recall a couple years ago there's a discussion of attracting a kayak manufacturer to the Legacy project. I would like to see manufacturing of some sort in the Blue Heron site, and I thought the zoning that was established for a kind of like a mixed-use light industrial was very innovative. So I think it satisfies that core value. The economic or the ecological aspects of the site, they're in association with other techniques. I mentioned a fish ladder in that paper from the basin down to 3rd Street. If planned holistically with the rest of the Willamette Falls Legacy project, I think the Whitewater Park could contribute to the enhancement of ecological values as well. I think I've gotten through all 4. Okay. So I hope you'll take a look at that, and just as you proceed, I hope you will keep in mind that the Legacy project does have kind of standards for what should happen in the future, and I think this proposal satisfies all 4 of those standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trevor Koenig and Karen Morey.
Trevor?
Trevor's not here?
Oh, there he is.
Oh.
Good evening, Mayor Holliday and the rest of the council. Thank you for taking comments. I'm an Oregon City resident, live 6 blocks away. Moved here a year ago from the city of Portland after 10 years. My wife and I brought our children. I have 2 boys, 1 and 3. We came here because we could no longer afford living in Portland on a single income. We're fortunate that I can work and my wife can stay home and raise our children, and in doing so, often takes the children out for walks, goes to the market downtown, walks Main Street, gets food, takes the elevator back up and walks the Riverwalk. Walks the Esplanade, rather. Excuse me. We'll be walking the Riverwalk.
Yes, correct.
One of the reasons we moved here, to be completely honest, is because I knew the Blue Heron site was going to be revitalized over the next decade. And knowing that we have long-term plans to stay in the area, I work downtown Portland, we wanted to live somewhere that we could afford to live long-term and would be vitalizing around us and hadn't vitalized before us. That being said, I don't know if the Whitewater Park is the best option for the Blue Heron site. I've looked at many options. I've been participating in the various council meetings and various staff and various meetings for the planning of that site. But that being said, all I ask is that we don't move to kill an option before it can be done, and that you highly consider maintaining option 2, allowing the co-design of the 2 projects until we weigh all options, especially because knowing how McLaughlin neighborhood is revitalizing. Every day I see new families moving in. I've met many families like myself that can no longer afford the metro city of Portland and have moved down here because of the affordability and the growth development plan in place. I again strongly urge that we just weigh all options prior to making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Karen Morey, I live in Oregon City, and you've all heard from me individually on this topic, but I want to reinforce something. I'm coming at the same conclusion from a different angle. The first time I toured the site I have lived here my entire life. I've driven boats on that river. I sunk one near the Station A. I've water skied. That's my river. I grew up on that river. Never, ever had I been that close to the falls. I was in awe. But on the way to the falls and on the way back, I was appalled at the state of the upper basin. That originally would have been free-flowing water returning to the lower river, from every which way. keeping it clean, scouring the channel. As the dams were raised, both to allow the steamboats access, to build the power dam, it was relieved somewhat by the fact there were sluices and mill races through the lower, through the mill property down to the lower river. There's barely any water in there. It's turned into a pond. It's choked out with weeds. It's covered with algae. Chiming in with Jim, one of the core values is habitat restoration. There's a natural habitat there, and it's not weeds and it's not algae. One of the things that I'm hoping that as you go, move ahead on the design phase of this, there's one little tiny trickle under one of the mill buildings returning to the lower river. In designing the river walk, if there is an allowance for a larger flow from the basin to the lower river to help restore the upper basin, without a commitment to what the use of that would be, I think that would be the best thing you could do for the site, for the basin, for the habitat, and I think the Whitewater Park is the coolest thing I've ever seen. But had to close with that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and finally, Jesse Buss and Sam Drivo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I've got my copy of the visioning document from late 2000.
Who are you?
Yes, sorry about that. My name is Jesse Buss. I live here in Oregon City. I was born here, grew up on the outskirts of town on New Era Road, lived on Parrot Creek, which is a very close upstream tributary on the Willamette, and now live in the McLaughlin neighborhood. So this document was passed in October 2014. Along with the master plan, the framework master plan. And on page 13, it goes through the 4 core values in detail with some bullet points, and I just wanted to highlight some of those to show that they're consistent with moving forward with the whitewater option. First, under historic and cultural interpretation. Emphasizes unique geology, Willamette River and Willamette Falls. Honors the significance of the site and the falls to the former Oregon Territory and the settlement of Oregon. Honors the significance of industrial development at Willamette Falls. And some desired outcomes there are interactive, holistic, and creative interpretation at multiple levels, increased awareness of all aspects of the cultural and historic significance of Willamette Falls, highlight national importance of the industrial development, and honor the past by doing better now. Mr. Nacita already went through the practical application of possible whitewater falls there, so I won't repeat those. Under public access, some of the key elements listed that are consistent with Whitewater Park. Here is connects people physically and emotionally with the river. A complete sensory experience of water is incorporated throughout the site. Hearing, seeing, feeling, and smelling. The site design reflects unique aspects of a place with unifying design elements integrated throughout. And some outcomes there are permanent, prominent, and breathtaking public access to the site, the river, cultural history, and the falls, and multiple creative and unexpected opportunities are provided to physically connect with the river. Again, these applications to Whitewater Park are obvious. In regards to healthy habitat, this is what I commented on primarily throughout the master planning process before this document came out. And some key elements there are riparian habitat, opportunities to restore riparian habitat along the Willamette River, native fish habitat, water quality, providing important resting and movement habitat for lamprey, salmon, and steelhead, and most prominently, adding flow through the mill races will increase habitat options for migrating fish. Along with Ms. Mori, I believe that keeping some increased water flow through the site could help fish. It could be provided for Whitewater Park or both, but that was specifically called out in the healthy habitat option. I don't have time for the economic development options, but they're there as well, pages 13 and 14. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Drivo?
Thank you, Commission. My name is Sam, a small business owner in Oregon City, and I'm on the board of We Love Clean Rivers, who sort of brought this topic forward. Thank you for your service, and we're asking for your support. I want to start by addressing how this even came about. Obviously, we've been working on this project for 3 years, try to site a whitewater park in Clackamas County, and it was on September 8th of 2014 when we were advocating for the zoning change from industrial to mixed use at the site and advocating for recreation as an element in the Riverwalk. It was then when one of the commissioners sort of stopped me in my prepared statement and said, you know, I had this idea that you could open up a tail race and you could bring water through it, and maybe there could be rapids and maybe there could be boats. You could walk back up, and then another commissioner sort of encouraged me by saying, you know, somebody needs to take a risk. Recreation seems like a good one, and there's people like you that are going to be the future of, you know, leadership in the city. And so I sort of took that in 2014 and ran with it, and really spent thousands of hours. And as much as I'd love to take credit for this idea, really it started on the Clackamas, and I see it as the Planning Commission in Oregon City that really encouraged this project. And you know, we were able to raise some money, none of which came out of the Oregon City budget, and we're looking forward into the future, not looking at Oregon City at all from a fiduciary standpoint. There's external sources of financing that we have access to continue this project. It's really proved its merit, I believe. At least the Oregon City Business Alliance believes so. I know that you guys sort of categorically decided option 3, and we should just take it off the table. But obviously, as a member of the Oregon City Business Alliance, I would urge you to consider option 2, because I think the Business Alliance is an important group of people in this community. You know, this topic was elevated to the Technical Advisory Committee by Metro, and it wasn't because it didn't have any merit. You know, there's a reason why there was a work session on it. And just yesterday with the Clackamas County Commission had a work session on it, and they even rephrased, you know, an option 3-esque, because everybody's following your lead. So let's be really clear about the different agencies involved in the public partnership and how they're looking to you for leadership. And I'm not even advocating to build it. I'm not. All I'm advocating for is to continue the research, because we've done a lot of really good research, and we've got some world-renowned experts that have studied this. So I at least ask for a work session. I mean, spending a minute or two and having, you know, a quick, you know, let's just squash the idea. I don't think that's due process. I mean, I would like to see just a little bit more vigorous conversation, because I'm here representing not tourism, but the outdoor industry, which is bigger than tourism in the state. It's a $12.8 billion economy with 141,000 jobs, and it creates over $955 million in local and state taxes. So I just ask, I would love to encourage some discussion even right now for you to consider another option based on the testimony that's been here today. I think that it warrants some conversation from our leadership, and I thank you for the leadership.
Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
So is everybody okay with the agenda?
Yeah, let's look and see here.
Are we not going to respond to this?
This was public testimony. We generally don't respond to public testimony.
Thank you. They can deliberate. You can go ahead and be seated. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we don't have this scheduled as a discussion item tonight.
So I guess the question is, when will we respond to that? When will we respond to the public that's here tonight?
We have one meeting between now and then.
Work session next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't think a work session next Tuesday gives enough time for notice for, you know, I mean, the thing about tonight, it was organized by a group of folks, but we have to allow, you know, if there are people who are opposed, the opportunity to talk about that as well. So we need to, don't you think we should provide some notice for that, Commissioner?
They will have that on August 15th.
Okay.
So I personally think that to move on to the agenda without at least addressing the comments that have been shared with us tonight, I think is a mistake.
Well, then go on. I'm fine with that. I just
but I'm not willing to do that if the rest of the commission is not willing to do that. So I'd like to hear if that's something that the commission wants to deal with tonight.
I'm open to having a discussion.
Brief discussion, so we can
I'm
move on
open
with our
to
agenda.
having a brief discussion.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Smith, why don't you start us off?
Which I said I wasn't going to do, but I will tell you the other thing that I have to say right before I speak on this topic is that if it's an extra hour or 2 hours to our meeting to have a conversation about something that is important as the Willamette Falls project, that most of us have waited our entire lives to talk about, then I will be here all night. So one of the things I wanted to say also was we have had just a few meetings as a commission on this topic. It was very clear from the first meeting we had that I was the only one that was at least fairly open to asking questions about moving forward. The rest of the commission was pretty focused on option 3, and so I kind of let it go. Because that's what you do when you're one person on a commission and you realize that the commission is going a certain direction. But I also felt that we hadn't heard from the public that I'd been hearing from for months and years. And so tonight I was going to wait for a lead from one of these other people on the commission to have this conversation. And then when I didn't see it coming, I'm making it right now. And so I just want to tell you all in the audience that this is why I love Oregon City. Okay? And there's so many reasons we all love Oregon City. But when I heard tonight, I want to point out a couple people who I'm so impressed by that spoke tonight. So many of these people have been part of this community in tourism, and it was by chance that tourism was a topic tonight. Nathan, incredible. I've lived in Oregon City my entire life as well. And you know what? There's not a more important place than this place. And we have to get it right. And I don't know if this is the way to get it right. I really don't. But I'm not willing to say it's not something I want to talk about. I respect so many of the people that have spoken. I think what really shocks me is the people in this room are the people we always listen to for every decision we've ever made in this city, at least as far as I've been here. And so why wouldn't this commission do it now? I just don't understand it. So I don't know that I need to say much more, but if any of the other commissioners feel it's necessary, I'm personally comfortable with option 2, and I was from the beginning. I just didn't go there because the commission didn't want to go there. But I know it's absolutely true that the county commission made their recommendation the other day based on what we've been telling them from the beginning of this conversation. And we are driving that. Why are they listening to us? Because it's in our town, and they want the public to feel and make sure we do this right, whatever the outcome is. And you know what? If you get 30 or 40 people in a room that come to speak on something, there's more. And in the entire time I've been on this commission since 2008, I could probably count on maybe 1 or 2 hands the amount of time that 30 people came to a meeting to talk about something.
You want me to follow that?
Somebody's got to.
All right. So, first of all, thanks everybody for coming here. We usually don't get participation like this, and that's sometimes good, sometimes bad, but appreciate you guys showing up here. So, my first exposure to this project was at one of our meetings here. I think it was the last one or whenever we had that one meeting here. So it was kind of here, right in front of me, and we were going to have to make a decision whether we were going to go forward with it. And this is a very complicated project, number one. Number two is, we've been in the planning stages for 2 years for the Riverwalk and the Legacy project. And the last thing I wanted to see happen was something to come in here and delay the planning that was going on already. So that was where I was worried. And enough so, that's where I said, look, I just kind of threw up my hands and I can't see us promoting this at all, just because of, I thought what might happen here. So, but since that time, I've kind of had a little change of heart here, and I would like to see us go to number 2, and because I really think it needs to be vetted more, and so my anger management is under control now, and I can actually see that, and I can see that as I've been out in the community and stuff now and seeing the reaction out there, that we should explore it. But I do have concerns about financing. I have concerns about the programming, how it affects our existing programming that we're doing, because this has been going on a while, and this is just so complicated of a project. The Whitewater project is. So, but I am willing to revisit it.
I'd like to also thank the community for coming forward and sharing your perspective on this. I also feel, along with Commissioner Shaw, that we really haven't had time to learn very much about the project. There was a presentation at OCBA that I didn't get to go to. We had some information presented at our city council meeting very quickly, and I've talked with Sam several times about the project to learn more about it. So there are a lot of unknowns. On that said, there's so much potential with the falls. I like the idea of exploring it. I am concerned about the cost impacts to the project that option 2 might create for the partners. So if there are additional resources to help with that, whether that's technical expertise or funding to soften that a little bit, and that there be a concerted effort to try and make sure that the project continues forward in a timely way and doesn't set the project back, because we don't want the project to be set back. I'd be willing to go for option 2 as well.
So before I talk, I wanted to hear from the city manager. Can you?
Deer in the headlights.
No. What I would like you to talk about is the easement and that particular piece.
Yeah, I think I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm for a project and requesting the public partners to design and what's essentially on private property. I think that this project, it's been difficult to describe, I think, for some that aren't intimately involved, in that we have a 120-foot easement from the water line onto Mr. Hygherkin's property. That is where the Riverwalk is designed. That is where we received our funding from the state. It is $12.5 million is specifically earmarked for a public Riverwalk along the river. The Metro funds that we've been able to secure through the natural and open space bond money is for along the river. The partners group adopted a budget. We hired Snellhetta to come in and do the design work for the Riverwalk. The remainder of it is upland private property. I realize Mr. Hygherkin has written a letter of support. I don't believe he's put any funds into the Whitewater Channel proposal. So they are two separate parts of one complex piece of property. The work necessary, we believe, as staff who've been looking at this and preparing the staff report for the partners to consider on the 15th, this is not in the scope, the budget, nor are there identified funds to stop the project to do this work. And option 3 isn't saying that a whitewater channel cannot be built. The property owner has the opportunity to come in with multiple design options. whether that's a whitewater park, a mixed-use development. And in the easement that we negotiated with the property owner, 3-4 years from now, as we implement phase 1 of the Riverwalk, things are going to change over the lifetime of this project. It's going to take 20 years to build that site out. And there will be adjustments made as we go along. And in the easement language, if the property owner comes in with a development scenario that fits within the framework or that's been adopted by the partners, the commission, it fits in that, or if they want to change it, they go through the process to amend that and implement it. And if that means that whether it's a hotel or restaurants or a whitewater park, if it impacts a portion of the Riverwalk that's been constructed, they can, if they get through the process, they can amend that and they can change the design of the Riverwalk, and the property owner would pay for that. So, when we talk about incorporating, an entrance or an exit or a whitewater channel at some point in the Riverwalk with an unknown design, I'm assuming that we're going to absorb those design costs with Snøhetta.
So I guess I'm confused because my understanding of option 3 is to consider this idea among many other ideas in a larger fabric and to figure out how to make it work. Option 2 is to not preclude this. I mean, it's not to design it, but to design the Riverwalk in a way that it wouldn't prevent some kind of a river access opportunity to exist. Am I misunderstanding that?
Yes, I think so. I think my understanding, and having been sitting at the Willamette Falls Legacy Partners meetings, my understanding of option 2 is that to keep this idea and make the design fit some kind of the idea of having a water park, but without any kind of real solid plan that we know, where it's going to be and all that sort of thing. How does the design collective do that? I don't know.
So essentially we'd be guessing. We would be picking a point and saying, here's the entry exit potentially.
Educated guess.
And option 3 is not saying that it's precluding the
No.
option. It's just saying we're going to look at it among many other options.
We're going to look at it from a programming standpoint.
Hang on.
So how do we program the activities on the Riverwalk to include a multiple of uses, whether it's fishing, boating, kayak access, from a programming standpoint?
So I want to... Go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
I'll wait for you.
No, go ahead.
Define programming. Because a second ago, you mentioned that option 3 does not preclude having a whitewater park as a component. When in all the past meetings, we've been told that option 3 doesn't allow that, and programming is just putting any kind of water use on top of a plan that's already done. The other thing I want to say is no city has meetings, no government agency has work sessions and meetings where they lay out 3 options where 2 of them aren't an option. What I'm saying is, if we were having meetings to decide in all these partner meetings to decide whether we wanted to support option 1, support option 2, or support option 3, then why were they even options? If we knew that we were going to, that one of them wasn't even possible. And we knew that.
Let me be clear, Commissioner Smith. We didn't know that.
Yes, we
hang on. These 3 options were only presented at the very last partners meeting in response to this group that took it to the design collective. The design collective and staff had a whole list of questions. This group, We Love Greenlee Rivers or whoever it was, answered those questions, and the design team and the Legacy Partner staff brought that back to us at the last meeting. So we've only had 25 days or so to talk about this information, because the project staff felt like that trying to utilize public dollars to fix the design of the Riverwalk to accommodate this, we legally can't use the money to do it.
So they weren't.
Nor has.
Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Nor has anyone else in this audience asked that for that tonight.
Asked for what?
For us to fund it.
So in other words, if other funds could be found to accommodate this type of use, then that might alleviate the issue.
And under option 3, it would still be available.
No, it sounds like option 3 allows for programming only, not with the Riverwalk being.
Oh, well, yeah, it wouldn't be conducted in the design of the Riverwalk. That's correct.
So it gets back to we were presented with this proposal, and we needed a way to process it, or a way to make it for the partners to make a decision. So we proposed a framework that said here are 3 potential. There's multiple options, but we identified 3. One was to fully integrate it. One was to try to partially, and then one was to use the programming just as a decision making. So we brought those as, okay, partners, is this something? Would this help you make a decision? There were no findings included. We had Snowhetta look at the proposal. Our staff reviewed the proposal. We sent questions to We Love Clean Rivers asking for clarification on issues and trying to put together criteria that the partners can make a decision on.
And our first city commission meeting started off with a 20-minute speech about why the mayor didn't want to support this. And then that was followed by a county commission meeting, public meeting with the partners, where again the city said, we don't want to talk about this. And then the county decided, based on what we said, that they did not want to talk about it. And tonight you have 3 commissioners saying, we want to talk about it. So I will make a motion. I will make a motion, and if the other commissioners on this commission want to debate it or talk about it in a future meeting, so be it. But I will make a motion that Oregon City Commission supports option 2, and not only that, recommends that the county do so as well.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion dies.
Wait a second. I second it.
Okay. Discussion? Discussion?
One thing we could do to add more meat to the bones is to have a work session next week to discuss it some more, so that we have some time before the partners meeting to have more information.
That work session's pretty full, isn't it?
If
I haven't
discussion
seen an
on
agenda.
membrane structures and
marijuana.
I don't have a problem with adding it to the work session.
No, let's do it.
That wasn't my motion.
Okay.
No.
Further discussion?
No.
Call roll.
Commissioner Shaw?
I will say yes.
Okay, that's enough.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mangelberg?
Aye.
And Mayor Holliday?
Aye. Okay, we are back in order. Our first is 16455, ordinance number 16-1006, adopting a public facility strategy for the Lynn Avenue and Hazelwood Drive sewer systems. Mr. Lewis.
Take it? Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Be real quick. This is part of the ultimate plan for the moratorium project. So if you remember, there was a timeline that we initially adopted that included, I think it was a 5-year plan, but we're still on track for completing this in 4 years. But in order to do that, the state requires us to check in. And so we've extended the moratorium every 6 months. And this is a little different in that it is more of a 2-year extension, and in doing so, it requires us to develop a public facility strategy, and so we're asking you to adopt that public facility strategy, and it basically talks about how we're going to continue to stay on track, some of the things we're going to check in on to make sure development is continued to allow. So this is just another ordinance in a train of ordinances that we've adopted to kind of keep this moving. So we're asking you to adopt that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Ready for that? All right.
I believe it's a public hearing. Is that?
Oh, it is.
Is it?
What?
Yeah, it's listed as a public hearing.
Okay,
right.
so
All right.
I'll open the public hearing. Has anybody signed up to speak on the issue? Anybody in the audience? Then I'll close the public hearing and make a motion. Commissioner Shaw.
Okay, move to approve 16-455 ordinance number 16-106, 006, excuse me.
And that's the first reading.
First reading.
Second.
Mr. Gleisman.
Ordinance number 16-1006, an ordinance adopting a public facility strategy for the Lynn Avenue and Hazelwood Drive sewer systems.
Discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mangelberg?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. Next, our next public hearing is PC 16-078. First reading of ordinance number 16-1007, adopting amendments to the Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 17.62, Site Plan and Design Review, and Chapter 17.50, Administration and Procedures. Ms. Turway.
Thank you very much. We have a process called Site Plan and Design Review, and it's required for exterior alterations to commercial, institutional, and industrial properties. And what we wanted to do is come up with a more streamlined and efficient process for minor alterations. These would be alterations that include criteria that are non-discretionary. The purpose of our review is to look at our Oregon City Municipal Code, look at a development proposal, and make sure that the proposal matches our code requirements. So for minor alterations, what we'd like to do is reduce the timeline for review and create a more efficient process, again, without changing any of the criteria for that. You've seen this before at the work session on July 12th. There was the work session with the Planning Commission, which was later on July 25th. And then also the first hearing for this was July 20th. It went before the Planning Commission, who recommended approval to the City Commission. They did place a condition on that requirement that that streamlined process doesn't apply for certain items with which are subject to our historic district review, which is Chapter 1740 of the code. I'm here to answer any questions that you have and recommend that you approve Ordinance 16-1007.
Discussion?
I would like to consider removing 17.62.035.A.1.E, which takes away the special provision that the Historic Overlay District is not subject to this. I don't think it's fair to burden McLaughlin neighborhood residents with higher costs, a more burdensome process, and a longer time frame than other residents in the city.
Is that a motion?
Unless there's further discussion.
Nope, good.
Okay. I move to approve, let's see, PC.
First reading.
The first reading of the PC 16-078, adopting amendments to the Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 17.62, Site Plan and Design Review, and Chapter 17.5, Administrative Procedures, while removing Section 17.62.035.A.1.E.
And let's include the ordinance number 16-1007 in that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Again, this is a public hearing that
Oh, okay, sorry, forgot
Sorry,
about that.
I-
All right, so I will open the public hearing. I don't have any listed speakers. Anybody in the audience? Then I will close the public hearing. Mr.
So if we are going to amend it so it's different than the form in which it was posted, the charter calls for reading that section in full. So I'll just read section A1 with the change. So.
Okay.
Ordinance number 16-1007, an ordinance adopting amendments to Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 17.62, Site Plan and Design Review, and Chapter 17.50, Administration and Procedures, with the change from what is posted in 1762.035A1. Applicability: Type 1 applications involve no discretions. The Type 1 process is not applicable for A, any activity which is included with or initiates actions that require Type 2 to 4 review. B, any use which is not permitted outright unless otherwise noted. C, any proposal in which nonconforming upgrades are required under Chapter 17.58. D, any proposal in which modifications are proposed under Chapter 17.62.015. And subsection E is deleted.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then I just have one thing to say, and that is that we held a joint work session with the Planning Commission because we wanted to get the City Commission had some questions about what this was doing, and in that joint work session, I think it was clear that the Planning Commission was not unanimously behind this particular section. And while we typically are, typically it's very difficult for us to ignore the time and effort and volunteerism time that the Planning Commission puts in. Occasionally there is a time when we have to exercise the Commission's authority to make the final decision in something, and that is one of these times. So unless there is further discussion, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. On to general business, 16-456, resolution number 1621, supporting the concept of the Oregon City Tourism Plan. Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty to determine that this is the fun part of the meeting. Yeah, right. So,
That remains to be seen.
Yeah. We'll see. But, no, this is a really exciting part of my job, when you're able to see the potential birth of a program that puts a structure or a framework around an initiative that's been going on in the community. It's so important for the community for a long time, and just gets us one step forward, one step closer to having a very successful economic benefit on the community with this program. What I'm referring to is the tourism plan concept that was presented to you on March 12th of this year by the Downtown Oregon City Association. It was a citizen-led initiative. They presented the concept of the plan, incorporating the goals and strategies that will help Oregon City prepare for, cultivate, and manage tourism. The Economic Development Department is excited about this program and realize it's an important initiative, and we're positioned to move forward with it. The resolution conveys support for the development of tourism promotional strategies and a temporary contract position to coordinate the formation of the Oregon City Tourism Stakeholder Group. The stakeholder group will advise tourism efforts based on the framework of the plan. The resolution supports general concept of the tourism plan and the allocation of lodging tax monies to establish a portion of a position in the Economic Development Department to assist with the efforts. If approved, the Economic Development Department will take the lead in establishing a new permanent position within the department and acquire the temporary contract services for purposes stated therewith. Any questions?
Commissioner Shaw?
So the position, Eric, you just said it was a temporary...
It's a temporary contract position.
Temporary contract.
Right, so that position would come in and form the stakeholders group. Basically, that would be their mission.
Is that position going to be within the city, the building here, or
So I would hire that contract position and work with them to form that group to see how this tourism plan will be implemented. There will also be a permanent position that will oversee that contract work.
So there's two.
There are two.
Two positions now.
And that's not the only purpose for that permanent position. It's also to help out with other economic development efforts.
Which we talked about in our goal
Right.
setting session.
Right. Yes, I remember that.
And it's partially replacing Michelle Benville in her work with the grants.
So the contractor would facilitate the stakeholders group to kind of put meat to the bones of the action plan, and
Right.
then once that there's general agreement about the approach, then the next step would be beginning to market and move forward in
Right.
implementing the plan.
Right. And the marketing effort is dependent upon a tourism grant that Downtown Association has applied for $50,000. And so if that's awarded, then they would move forward with a full-out marketing.
What's the estimated time frame for that to potentially begin?
The marketing piece, you'd have to ask. I'm not sure. You might have to ask the executive director of the Downtown Association.
Jonathan, you want to come up?
In the meantime, Eric, could you again speak about contracting versus an employee? This would be a city employee or a contractor?
It'd be a temporary contract position. So
Yeah.
my department would hire that contractor
Okay.
that would come in and help put a framework around this and
Okay.
develop that stakeholder group
Right.
and get them established.
Okay.
And then once they're established and off and going, then that contract position would end. And then we would have a permanent position that would not only oversee that contractor, but once it's established, would help with the tourism efforts along with other economic development tasks with the department.
Got it.
Mr. Smith, you got anything?
Yeah. But not a lot. I will say that I've spent 20 years in Oregon City working on tourism, and as far as I know, this is the first time the City Commission has ever put tourism as a priority, or at least on the radar of a priority. I think this framework plan that we've all worked as a community to develop, I don't think it's 100% done. I don't think it's solid. I think there's pieces of it that need to be tweaked and worked out. But what's great about where we are now is if we hire a contracted person to do this, and the thing that I think is so important about that is a person theoretically that has no viewpoints on where individual organizations or heritage groups should go, and that person is a neutral person that can oversee all of the discussion that all the partners have and kind of drive that, and working with a staff person to do that. I think that's the first time we've ever seen that. I think that is a good foundation to start the discussion that we probably should have started 20 years ago. Now's the time. I'm so excited that we've gotten to this place. I know there's a lot more work to do, but I think this sets the next commission up for the ability to budget and to make goals that are geared towards tourism so that this community is ready for how to deal with projects like Willamette Falls Legacy Project and others. So I think this is a great starting place.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Stone about the marketing aspects of the project.
Sure. So I'll specifically address the question and reserve my comment, which I submitted for whenever you wish to hear it. My name is Jonathan Stone. I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Oregon City Association. So I'm not completely privy to what the budgeting details are with respect to the position that's identified or the facilitator, but the marketing piece was that milestone 1 in the plan identified for the marketing pillar was to engage an agency, a marketing agency, to basically develop a tourism experience and work with a tourism experience brand or a product-based thing. Understanding that the scope of tourism in Oregon City and our ability to manage it is in early stages, so baby steps, and we would charge the newly formed group would charge the agency with exploring all options to develop a product that's marketable and manageable for us. Understanding that tourism will grow, and the scope of the group's ability to become a destination marketing group for the city will grow as tourism and capacity grows. So what the Downtown Association did on behalf of the city was apply for a $50,000 grant from the Travel Oregon, from Travel Oregon, with the understanding that could help accelerate the financial aspects of the plan to get an agency in here as soon as possible, and then allow the group to work with that agency to decide when to implement whatever the findings or the creative product they create is finished. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But anyways, to answer the question, so we just basically applied for a $50,000 grant. If awarded, we would use those funds to help the city fund milestone 1 of the marketing pillar of the plan.
So I'm trying to think of what the product is. Is it an ad? Is it a logo? Is it a Facebook page? Is it a Twitter and blogging initiative?
Any, all, whatever. The question, ultimately, the tourism group that I imagine you all will appoint has the dubious challenge of writing the request for proposal for the marketing agency to be engaged for what approximately is a $100,000 scope. They're asked to create a product that can then be marketed. So, and what they're able to provide in that $100,000 scope is yet to be seen, based upon how that the request for proposal is written.
A second question: how would Clackamas County does a wonderful job of marketing the whole county, and Oregon City is a subset of that. What is the vision for collaborating with them and kind of enhancing our efforts in partnership?
My understanding is that with all efforts with respect to the tourism plan, we would be remiss to not think about aligning with Clackamas County, Travel Portland, and Travel Oregon, because the whole point of the tourism plan and the milestone strategy is based around crawling before you can walk, and we certainly don't have the resources that Mount Hood Territory has or ever will we have, and alignment with their priorities and giving them something that they can easily market to their existing audiences is absolutely a solid strategy from a marketing agency's creative product.
Thank you.
So since you're already here, why don't you go ahead and do your testimony, and Blaine, you want to come up?
So anyways, like I said, I'm the director of the Downtown Association. Thank you so much for considering the proposed plan, and it's sort of, I guess, a happy accident that you guys got to listen to the Whitewater presentations earlier. And my only observation is had we had a tourism body in Oregon City sooner than now, that these types of questions would have been considered early on, or at least you would have had a trusted group of advisors that you could have approached and asked about this. But hopefully, moving forward, there's no mysteries with tourism, and that this group will be able to provide the guidance that you seek, and to process research and information that's presented to them to give you the best possible decision-making authority as possible. The tourism plan, I know we've worked with a number of stakeholders. We've had public engagement sessions, and there's been some question like, where is certain aspects of tourism included in the plan? The consultant that originally wrote the plan, Doug LaPlaca, observed that Oregon City has a strong heritage component to it, and that's hard to deny, but it's also hard to deny that we have a lot of other aspects to tourism in Oregon City, and so since that point we've been referring to this marketing product as a product and not any one specific type of experience, and that there's some people that are a lot smarter, a lot more creative than that get paid a lot of money to think about these things that will work with the group to create what is the most inclusive possibility early on. So this is the beginning of a journey for tourism in Oregon City, and I thank you so much for considering pushing us along to the next step, because the Downtown Association has certainly identified tourism as a major economic driver if we want to continue to see restaurant success, retail success. We have to start seeing that types of pedestrian traffic increase and begin to identify the strategies that, that the tourism funds are intended to be spent on, which is marketing and acquiring people to come visit our city.
Thanks, sir. Blaine?
Just a couple of comments. First, I want to just thank Jonathan for all his work. He's just done a yeoman's job and a lot of hours, and I don't think he got paid for it. So we're very thankful for your work. When I started getting involved with tourism back in 2012, my observation was that there were just a lot of very enthusiastic people, good people, creative and talented people, but there was just no coordination. And so I'm very excited about this concept that you're supporting, because that will give. And someone told me, "Oh, it's like a bicycle wheel." Had to work that in, right?
Shameless plug.
With a lot of spokes and no hub, and it just. And I think we have so much potential, but without that center hub, that leadership element that is tied to the city, without that, it just lops along, and wobbles along. So this is really, I think, a great thing to finally get that central focus and a way to develop policy and plans, and to then implement them in a disciplined way, and to get the money that we need for budgeting and working with the other agencies and and the other stakeholders here in the city. I think it's just a great thing. So,
thanks, sir.
Yep.
Next up, Jim Austin and Amber Holvek.
Again, Jim Austin, resident of Portland, but don't hold that against me, with Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs. I'm very excited about this. I'm glad Jonathan started this project. I'm glad towards the end of one fiscal year, when these funds were available, that someone said, "Hey, can we get an extension to hire someone to start this process and kick this off?" I think it's a much needed coordinated effort. I think it's the right time to start setting up Oregon City for this. There's a lot coming on board as the destination marketing organization for the county, and as a major player in the regional destination marketing organization. We're here to stand as your partner, provide our subject matter expertise. We have a pretty good website, and we work with a lot of our community partners in doing these. More and more communities and cities are coming on board and deciding what to do, doing some coordinated effort with their transient lodging taxes. We're here to help. There's a lot of great buzzwords out there, and shiny new objects and things that people get excited about, and we can tell you where you can avoid that. There's really not a bunch of payoff for that. A good way to set up a website. We're happy to just partner with you on that. And that's it. So here to serve as a resource and a partner.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening, City Commission, Mayor. I'm Amber Holvek. I serve as the director for the Oregon City Chamber, and I'm a resident just outside of city limits. I'm going to echo a great deal of what I heard Blaine Meyer share. Is, over these years that I have been part of Oregon City and Oregon City tourism, I have known many talented, dedicated, knowledgeable, and passionate people who have been involved in Oregon City tourism. And some, I think, would give their eye tooth, to make it be the thing, to really make it successful. And it seems as though no matter how noble each of our individual efforts have been, or even some of the organized group efforts that we've made our way through, there's always been just that little lack of singing from the same sheet of music. And it's time that we all share that same sheet of music when it comes to Oregon City tourism. And I think that the way that we're going to be successful as a body in tourism is if we can all look to that hub. Thank you so much, Blaine. That was brilliant. And just that hub, having that seated here with that foundation of the stakeholder group being generated from this effort here at City Hall, I think is going to be an incredible corner for us to turn. And I wholeheartedly support this and seek that each of you will support it as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I approve.
You approve it? Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you, King Smith.
You know, you got a couple more months here. Do you think you got it?
Yeah, it's gonna be 5 more months, you guys.
We're adjourned now.
I move to approve resolution number 16-21, supporting the concept of the Oregon City Tourism Plan.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Mengelberg. I do have a couple things to say. I agree with Commissioner Smith. We need to have this starting place, this one manager. I do have a question. So, are we going to put it on RFP for this position, or are you just going to do it?
Yeah, we'll do an RFP for the position.
Okay.
Do interviews probably.
So, in that RFP, maybe have a very thick skin. Because herding all those cats is going to be a fun job.
Be sure to include that.
He didn't mention dogs, did he?
No, we don't mention dogs. You can actually herd dogs. You can't herd cats.
Yeah. That's what you said last night.
So I'm absolutely totally in favor of this. I had some discussions with a couple of folks out in the community who were concerned that maybe there hadn't been enough discussion around this. I think that's exactly what we're doing, is putting in a place where we can actually form a group and have those organized discussions at a little bit lower level than ours, so that we can actually get something moving. I hold out hope that it will work. But we've been trying to get these multitude of different groups, historical, tourism, and otherwise, together since Rocky was babysitting my kids, at least. So, with that, is there any further discussion? Then call a roll, please.
I am getting there.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg? Aye. Mayor Holliday?
Aye. All right. Next on the list. 16-466, discussion of Clackamas County proposed 6% motor vehicle fuel tax. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you, Mayor. Evening, Commissioners. We had a discussion about this previously concerning the proposed 6% motor vehicle fuel tax. The county had provided a request for adoption of a resolution supporting the 6% fuel tax, as well as an intergovernmental agreement laying out the support, as well as how the funds would be divided and proportioned out to the county and to the city, with 60% going to the county, 40% going to the cities, and then the 40% to the cities would be distributed based on population. They also included a requirement that the cities adopt the resolution and approve the IGA by September 1st. Those organizations that don't meet that deadline would not be eligible to receive funding.
Discussion?
Well, I'm glad we changed the wording in there to be net and not the gross. I think that was redlined in the project there. So, and we are going to get the 40%.
Possibly.
Well, that's the discussion. I mean, is that, when you say possibly, so you're saying that it's not, it's not for sure that we're going to get 40% of the funding.
Well, first
we haven't passed it yet.
Right. I
First of all.
don't, let's say that if it does pass, that we will get 40% if we sign up on this project, right? Now, there was discussion about this, that cities would get it even if they didn't sign up, or is that now, what's the?
That was rejected by the county.
Okay. So the cities that sign up do get their share.
Should it pass, correct.
And that's divided by population.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Megerberg?
Yes, that's the sixth whereas down on the resolution that clarifies that
Yeah.
the cities would. So at our previous meeting, we talked about this, and I was definitely in favor of doing this. Just as a practical matter, if we don't sign the resolution, all of our citizens that shop at our gas stations will be paying for a gas tax that is funding roads for all the other cities in the county, and it's a missed opportunity if we don't sign it. I mean, $500,000 is a lot of money every year, and it could make a difference in our community, and I would support the city signing the resolution.
Commissioner Smith?
The reason that the county rejected the idea that the cities didn't have to sign on before September 1st in order to get the funding is because they need all the cities to support this to get their funding. And when Commissioner Mengelberg, now I've done it. When Renata just mentioned that, no matter what the city commission does right now, and whether or not our citizens support or don't support this, we're still paying for it. But that's exactly why the county wants it that way. Because let's say every single person and every single citizen in Oregon City doesn't want to pay this tax. We don't know that until it goes to a vote. But we have to sign and agree to this before we can find out whether our citizens want this or not. It is a deliberate tactic to put this commission and all the other commissions in the position where we don't have a choice, and where each of these cities is pitted against themselves to find out which city is going to sign, which city is not going to sign, and that's exactly what the county wants us to do. Now, it frustrates me so much, and I know it frustrates others on this commission, that we're put in a position where we have to sign this. And if I knew that when this went to the vote, that let's say we put it out to the vote, and we find out that within the city limits of Oregon City, that Oregon City voters support it, then that should determine that we're a participating city. But the county knows that it's a county-wide vote, just like TriMet, just like the light rail is a citywide vote. And guess what? Oregon City citizens want light rail. Are they going to get it? No, because it has to go to a county vote. So they're not giving us a decision. And I'm sick of the county not giving us a decision. And I don't really know what to do, but I don't want to support this.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith, for that kind introduction. So I have been working on this now for about a month or so since the county first put out its original proposal. Last weekend, was it last weekend? No, the weekend before. I was at the Oregon Mayor's Conference in Lincoln City. I put together a meeting of the 6 county mayors that were there. So it was Oregon City, Westland, Happy Valley, Milwaukee, Tualatin, and who did I miss? No, Brian wasn't there.
Did you say Wilsonville?
Wilsonville, Tim Knapp from Wilsonville. We spent about an hour discussing this, and it came down to us an issue of fundamental fairness and politics, in that each one of our cities is coming up to a different place this November. Oregon City has an $18 million bond for a police facility. Wilsonville has something. Most of the cities have some kind of funding mechanism coming up for something. And we felt that it wasn't fair to require a city to support this gas tax, possibly for the sake of some other funding mechanism for locally. The other thing is that it would be fundamentally unfair to collect a countywide gas tax from Oregon City citizens or Gladstone citizens or West Linn citizens, and just because they had to make a choice politically to say that, well, we're not only going to not give you the money, but we're going to take the money that your citizens are paying and we're going to distribute it to the other cities. So what we did is we said, okay, we'll get a couple of those cities have staff attorneys. And so 2 city staff attorneys worked together with what the mayor said to produce what we thought was a clean version that said we'll pass a resolution or a proclamation, and the county will collect the gas tax. They will remit the net and define the net as whatever ODOT and the Department of Revenue charge to do the setup and then the collection and distribution. We thought that was going to be fine, that the county understood that we were looking to work, but we didn't want to do it at the end of a gun barrel. Tuesday, I was pretty offended when I went to the Board of County Commissioners policy session, and they basically threw out all the work that we had done and said, you're either going to do this or we're not going to give you any money. And my thinking is twofold. One, Oregon City has passed for a long time. I don't remember exactly when we passed our transportation maintenance utility fee, but it's been 8, 10 years, 6 years?
2007.
Okay, so 2007. So we did the responsible thing. We passed a transportation utility fee that is functioning and doing the things, as we can tell by all of the construction that's blocked me from getting to several places, Mr. Lewis, by the way. We know that that's working. Now, could we use more money? Sure, we could use more money. But the question becomes, how do we get there? How do we inform our citizens? And the county understands that 60% or better of the population of Clackamas County is in the cities. So in order to force us to pass this thing, they've come up with this way. I sent out communications over the last day and a half to the mayors in the region. Some are with me, some are not. But it would only... Let's back up one thing, and that is when the county pulled this back before they did the advisory vote, the best polling that a gas tax or a vehicle registration fee, the best polling it got was 51%. Now, most political people understand that if you're polling to get a tax, that if you're not at 60% or better on your poll, the chance of you passing that are like slim to none. And then coming out with this kind of a way to just beat us over the head with this thing, it lends me to the fact, one, I don't believe it will pass even if we pass the resolution and we do all that stuff. Number two, I'm tired of getting bullied by the county. And we all know that the best way to stop a bully is to punch him in the nose. And I think that if Oregon City says, we're not going to support this thing, then we can go out to our citizens and say, you can vote however you wish to on this gas tax, but if you vote yes, the city isn't going to get any of this revenue. And so we lay it back at the feet of the county commissioners again. And my recommendation for what the city commission should do is we pass the IGA that the mayor's produced that's clean, and we execute it, and we send it to the county commission, and if they don't want to sign up, then we won't support it, and away we go. But it's their decision then, not ours. And if we consider the fact that Oregon City has a population somewhere in the 35,000 range, and about half of those are registered voters, that's a big chunk of voters in a county-wide election. And if just a couple other cities, and I have indications there are at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 others that will follow our lead, then the county can either relent and go with the version the mayor's passed, or they can lose the gas tax.
Dan, could you talk about the differences between the mayor's version and the version we have before us here?
Basically, the mayor's version takes out the word participating from all of the language. So that allows cities to work as little or as hard as they wish to pass the tax, depending on what their own political situation is for November. And it takes away the whole, you have to participate in order to share in the revenue section. So what we're saying is, in fact, Mayor DeReamer from Happy Valley called me 3 days ago, said she'd run into Commissioner Schrader at the Street of Dreams, and she basically reiterated what all of the mayors said. We don't believe that it's fair to collect taxes from one jurisdiction and not distribute them to all jurisdictions. So, we took that out. We said, yeah, even if a city doesn't participate, doesn't sign up, it doesn't change the fact that their citizens are being taxed, and those funds should be remitted to those cities to be used for transportation purposes, and they are specifically limited by the Constitution on how we can spend that money. So, I don't know. I'm tired of being sued by the county. I'm tired of having to fight with the county over stuff that we shouldn't have to fight about. They act like they are some big city, and so we're all just like we don't matter. And I personally got elected to take care of the interests of the citizens of Oregon City, not the citizens of Clackamas County. I think we could, with different leadership at the county, I think we could have a fundamental shift in how the county and the cities work together. But until November, I don't think that's going to happen. So I am not prohibited from making a motion, am I?
Yeah,
Well, it's just a discussion item. Isn't
Okay.
It?
Well,
It's a
I've made my suggestion as to what we should do.
I'll make a motion to support the mayor's.
Damn.
What? Mr. Conkle? Back up the truck, he says.
Well, is this something, are we comfortable, is this something you want us to come back and see the red line version, or are you comfortable with kind of the description of, I agree that is accurate, but is this something you'd like to see that we can bring back in front of you?
I'd like to see a hard copy of what the mayors came up with here. So.
We could bring it back in 2
do.
weeks.
Is there any way? Well,
It would have to go on the August 15th agenda.
The thing that worries me about that, because I have a feeling we could probably see it tonight if we want to, is that it's 2 more weeks of other cities figuring out what to do and arguing, and more time, 2 more weeks for the county to start, bending people's arms, and I don't want to wait 2 weeks.
And they have 5 full-time paid lobbyists.
I want to make that decision now.
I would say that I'm intimately familiar with it. That document got bounced back and forth not only between the 2 city attorneys from different cities who developed it, but was also reviewed, and comments were made by 4 or 5 of the 6 mayors that it's gone through. Generally speaking, we were in unanimous agreement that this was a good document. I wish I had known that you wanted to see it, but it is as described. It leaves net in, takes away all the participating pieces, and also takes away the revenue sharing thing. It just says that the county's going to collect ODOT's going to collect the tax with the Department of Revenue. They're going to remit it to the cities minus whatever their administration costs are, or to the county minus the administration costs, and then the county passes that on to the cities by population.
Has the county seen this revised version and had a chance to talk about it, discuss it, comment on it?
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did on Tuesday, and they wholesale I mean, it was a 3-2 vote. I do have to say that Commissioner Schrader and Commissioner Bernard attempted to defend, but generally speaking, it's a, I don't know, it's almost become a playground battle now where, you know, and I'm done with it. There are times when you just have to stand up and go, no matter how good it would be for the cities, for the Oregon City to get this money, I don't think it's worth the good word, the capitulation to the county. I think it's time that we say enough is enough, and we are willing to stand up and say, sure, we're happy to help you pass this gas tax, but we're not going to do it at the end of a gun barrel. And that's what this resolution, that's what this IGA does. It says, we're going to do what you asked us to do, but we're doing it freely, and we don't support denying other jurisdictions the revenue.
But based on what you say, Dan, the other cities are generally in support of the concept. Maybe not the document, but the concept of wanting to be part of a gas tax proposal. Is that correct?
I think that's what came out of the earlier meeting at the Moot. I think the cities probably would have been more supportive of the vehicle registration fee if the county commission, as they are legally able to do, would have passed a VRF without a vote of the people. I think the county commission understood that the vehicle registration fee probably wouldn't pass a vote. So the second option that was discussed at the Museum of the Oregon Territory was, well, do the gas tax, and if the gas tax fails, then you can always institute a vehicle registration fee. I'm not sure that, planning for Plan B is a great idea. Again, I think until your polling gets to, at least 55 or 60%, I think you're wasting a lot of money putting out on an issue that is probably not going to pass anyway. And given the rather heavy ballot that's going to be on November, Measure 97 is going to be on there. Oregon City has something. I think I don't know if Clackamas County has something else. Oh, Clackamas County's got the gas tax. Yeah, so I just think that the likelihood of this being able to pass, even with all the city's support, is pretty slim, and it would only take a couple others of us. And I know of at least 2 other cities that probably will follow either our example or just say we're not going to do anything. So you made a motion?
I did, but I think
I
that
interrupted
we just had a
it.
discussion. That wasn't seconded yet.
Is there a second for Commissioner Smith's motion?
There wasn't an actual motion made, so if we could make that, thank you.
Okay. I move to support the mayor's version of the IGA. Do I need to say anything more than that?
And authorize the city manager to execute.
So moved.
Well, we'll second it just to get it to the vote.
Further discussion? So, I probably said everything I want to say, but I do think that there are times when the decisions we make up here are not just policy. Sometimes they have to be about, what's best for Oregon City and her citizens. And I truly believe that this is the best thing that we can do for Oregon City and our citizens. And if they choose not to sign the IGA, if the county chooses not to sign the IGA that we send to them, then that's at their feet. And they're the ones that are going to have to... Do I have to have your stuff confiscated before you come in the door? Okay. Where was I?
It's at their feet if they choose
Yeah,
not to.
they're certainly at least 2 of them are running for re-election. So, when they start pulling these things, instead of, making it, well, the cities are against us, we're saying we're happy to support your thing. All you have to do is sign what we give you. So, I'm hoping I don't get a 2-2 here. Is there any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Shaw,
I'm going to say nay because I would like to see the hard copy before I moved it.
We can get, would take 5 minutes to get that.
Well, that's what I want. So I want to
Commissioner Smith.
I think we need the copy if that's what if Commissioner Shaw needs that to make a decision.
Hang on, I'm going to suspend the rules here for a second. So, can we get?
Well, I'll vote yes. I'll vote yes just to see what the vote comes out.
Commissioner Mengelberg.
Nay.
So now we need-
Commissioner Holiday.
Aye.
Or Mayor Holiday.
Aye. So, hang on. So, Commissioner Shaw.
Yes.
If we got a copy of the clean IGA down here for you to
Correct.
review, would you
Yes.
make a motion for reconsideration?
Yes.
Because it has to come from the opposite side.
Correct.
From the side
Then
that
can
prevailed.
staff find us that?
Did you send it to us?
Yes, somebody has it. Hang on, let me look at my email. So, before we start talking, we're going to go back into regular session. Okay, there we are. So this is the county's IGA that a couple of the cities gave to their staff attorneys, and they revised it to meet the requirements of the 6 mayors who met down at the Oregon Mayors Association meeting. Basically, it takes instead of listing all the cities, it just says between Clackamas County and the county cities. It takes away all evidence of the participating cities. It in section A2 it says devote all of city's share of net revenues derived from the tax for the purpose of construction, and that's under Article 9, Section 3 of the Oregon Constitution. The big one is under B5, and that is, oh no, that's just the same net revenue and talks about how what net revenue is defined as. It's under Section 5. We struck out, the county and cities agree that in order for an individual city to be eligible to receive any motor vehicle fuel tax revenues under this agreement, the city must first comply with the terms of this agreement by September 1st, 2016, which gets us back to the cities agree to support the county's effort for a 6 cent per gallon 7-year countywide motor vehicle fuel tax at the 2016 general election on or before September 1st by adopting a resolution or proclamation supporting the imposition of a voter-approved 6 cent a gallon gas tax, and then to devote all the city's share to doing road work, basically. So this is the clean version that says that whether or not the cities participate, they're still going to get their proportional share of the gas tax.
Because their people are paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very reasonable. Even the county's attorney, when I talked to him, said that it seemed like everything that we were doing here was perfectly reasonable and responsible. So,
I do have a question of Mr. Lewis. When we talked about this earlier, you had made the point that because we have PMUF, we already have a really good source for road maintenance, but that this additional money could be used for other things, safety and other things. But scope of work in Cooperation A or actually 2 says purpose of construction, reconstruction, improvement, repair, maintenance, and operation of city highways, roadways, and streets. That seems to limit this revenue source to something that PMUF already does.
That exact language is in the Constitution, in the state Constitution. So fuel taxes must be used for just that limited scope of work.
Okay, I didn't understand that. Thank you.
So, Commissioner Shaw, are you willing to make a motion to reconsider?
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
Okay, so we have reconsidered. Where are we at? Is there any further discussion, or? Okay, so the motion to reconsider is on the table. Is there any discussion about that? Hearing none. Oh.
Wait, yes. So I will vote for this.
We're still on the motion to reconsider, not the main motion.
Okay.
Okay. So if there's no discussion on the motion to reconsider, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mangelberg?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. So on the main motion.
Okay. So I will vote for this partly because we have enough time between now and September for the county to reconsider.
Magically
based on
become
this
reasonable?
And potentially get to a happy place where all agree before September.
Okay. Anybody else? Call the roll.
What's the motion?
We have to remake
It's
the motion.
no. We're back to the main
You're
motion
reconsidering
to
okay.
approve the mayor's version of the intergovernmental agreement with the county and to authorize the city manager to execute that agreement.
Sorry, I have to get to. Okay, Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mangelberg?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. Good. I hate split votes. On the agenda, there we go. So the last. Oh. Yes.
C.
Yeah, I was getting there. So PC 16-079, memorandum of agreement between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Portland District, and the Oregon State Preservation Officer, and the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation for efforts to avoid, minimize, or mitigate adverse impact to Willamette Falls locks. Mr. Conkle,
Are you doing that? I can take this one.
are we confused?
Sorry,
not up on.
it's not popping up on the
Yeah.
monitor.
Oh, it's on my monitor.
Is Laura gonna?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can
Go
start
ahead,
for
Ms.
you.
Turway.
All right, thank you. In 1974, Willamette Falls Locks was registered with the National Register of Historic Places. And about 35 years later, in December of 2011, those locks were closed due to some safety concerns. So that closure started a process called Section 106. And what that is a process to make sure that the closure avoids, minimizes, or mitigates adverse impacts on this historic structure. So we have been working on that Section 106 for about 4 years, and now we've come to this agreement. The agreement includes a variety of items of which we're already doing, such as the final disposition study and to pursue that, and then the formation of that state task force to study and repair reopening the locks. This memorandum of agreement is between the Corps and the State Historic Preservation Office, as well as the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. We are just endorsing as a concurring party. So what that means is that we support the agreement in general. The agreement has been signed by most other jurisdictions so far, so we're one of the last ones to sign that. Are there any questions I can answer for you regarding this agreement?
Let me just say that this is a part of the product of the governor's task force on the Willamette Falls locks, and so this has been being discussed in some form or another the last 6 months or so. It's gone through everybody's staff. Mr. Weisman's had a chance to review. So with that, questions, Commissioner? Anybody else?
Good.
I'd take a motion.
I move to approve PC 16-079.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mangelberg?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. So with that, I am going to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Smith. I had a previous meeting that was supposed to start an hour ago, and so I really need to go at this point. So thanks, everybody, and I will take my leave at this point.
All right. All right, so that brings us to the consent agenda. Is there any items that? Oh, we already. All right, everyone's good with that? Any motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
and President Smith.
Aye. Oh.
I got you.
All right, that brings us to communications.
Thank you, Commissioner President. I'll start with Mr. Underwood to talk about a stakeholder meeting coming up.
Thank you. As you're aware, we have assembled approximately 84 acres of industrial land in the Beaver Creek area. Since that time, Clackamas Community College was successful in passing their bond measure that enabled them to plan and build the Industrial Technical Center. And we then saw synergies there, a chance to partnership and promote, to partner and promote that area for workforce training and job creation and company recruitment there. So we've partnered with the Chamber and the Community College. We've been working as a steering committee for the past year and a half. We had our first workshop stakeholder meeting, which was basically a visioning meeting, getting feedback from the public. We've taken that feedback and we've been working on it for the next year for a strategy, for a promotional strategy. And now we're getting ready to host our second stakeholder meeting. We're calling it an update and call to action for this. And so it's basically an update of what the work we've done, where we're at now, and how we plan to move ahead. So I would like to invite each one of you to that. It's September 1st at the Environmental Learning Center at the Community College, beginning at 3 o'clock. So, and I have a flyer for you.
Good.
Perfect.
Next, I'll have an update from Mr. Kabizman on the Public Works Operations Center, the legal process update, and then Mr. Lewis, if he has anything to add.
Council President Smith and Commissioners, just short 5-minute update on what's going on with the Public Works Operations Center. If you remember, there was a issue raised. There was a contract that's going to be let for architect to look at the master plan for the Public Works Operations Center. Several citizens came in and said, wait a second, this is a park, we need to look at this. The commission looked at it and adopted a resolution saying that it wasn't a park. That was back in November. Those citizens challenged that. They filed a land use appeal first, and this will come in important later. The land use appeal is essentially a 3-page document saying, hey, we think this is, we're going to appeal this and we're going to make arguments later. We moved to dismiss it, saying this wasn't a land use decision. It's about interpreting our charter. We prevailed on that, but it sort of became a bit of a whack-a-mole game because at that point they moved to transfer it to the circuit court, which is allowed, and also appealed it to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals, we briefed it, resolved it, and the Court of Appeals affirmed without opinion Luba's decision. So the Luba case is gone, the Court of Appeals case. The transfer was in circuit court. They moved to transfer in February. It was transferred. This is where the nature of the land use appeal comes important because 3 pages, doesn't say what they thought was wrong, doesn't say anything about the decision. We said you've got to make your petition. They avoided that while the appeal was pending. Finally, in July, they submitted their final petition. At that point, we realized, actually, you can't really do a writ of review, which is what the transfer was. And so we've been back and forth about a briefing schedule on that, and eventually we just decided we're going to take this on now, and we filed a motion for summary judgment on it, basically saying you can't have the writ of review, and in any way it's long. long story short, one of the things that came out of some of those discussions was they decided to file a fourth action. They've now filed a motion, a new complaint for a declaratory judgment, asking the court to declare that the upper yard is a park. So we're now into action number 4. We're waiting to see what happens on the writ of review, and we'll deal with this. They've asked for consolidation, but it just continues to go. So,
okay.
If you have questions, happy to answer them, but just letting you know that there's now been a new case filed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. If there's anything I can add to it, it's just ongoing kind of frustration with the system, I guess, and the continue to pile on. So, we've spent a fair amount of money on legal fees and staff time on this. I just think it's important for the community to know that we've got a good plan. We've been kind of doing what we committed to the city commission and really to the neighborhood. And and I think what we've heard is, anybody can sue you for anything, and they're probably going to continue to. So we're going to continue to move forward. What I understand is we had another positive neighborhood meeting tonight with McLaughlin neighborhood, and trying to continue to work through those issues that are important to them, at the same time keeping ourselves whole with regard to the operations center. So we'll just keep moving forward with that.
All right.
Okay. Next, just to provide an update, we had the urban renewal citizen initiative that was submitted to collect signatures. The signatures were submitted to the county. The county reviewed the signatures, and they were approximately 120 signatures short. So they have until May of 2017 to get the necessary signatures. So that is still an ongoing process. Potential, they still have time to collect those 120 signatures and get them on the November ballot as well. And so I just wanted Mr. Kabaisman to just kind of remind what the public employees can and cannot do as it relates to a ballot measure that's in front of the city.
And when we talk about, let me first by saying, when we talk about a ballot measure in front of the city, it's sort of once the ballot measure gets filed. It's not, when the signatures, when it goes to the election or anything, it's, we have the ballot measure. And so these restrictions apply. Basically, you as elected officials can do just about anything. You can advocate, you can say this is bad for the city, you are fully allowed to do that. Where we get into difficulty is asking public employees, spending public funds for advocacy on one side or the other. So asking the city recorder to draft something up against it, asking the urban renewal manager to do things for advocacy. You can ask for information and say, what have the dollars been spent? What type of reports can you have? But you can't have them take steps that could be seen as advocating for or against a particular measure. That's really the key piece. But you, as in your role as city commissioners, can do, take whatever stand you'd like.
Questions on that?
So, what they have. Yeah, never mind.
I do have a question. Several months ago, you talked about the ability of commissioners to talk about things that might be becoming before them. Well, this ballot measure has it been filed?
Yes, it has been filed, and it's been certified for signature.
So there's not an action related to this that's coming to the council anymore. It's in the voters' hands, potentially, in November.
Yeah.
So is there anything that prohibits us from talking together? And
so, this is an interesting question about public meetings, and one that has been, let's say the law is less than clear about what you can and can't do, and I think it's changed dramatically in the scope of the last 2-3 years. What the law specifically prohibits is the commission, a majority, a quorum of the commission, getting together to deliberate towards a decision. And the question really comes down to what is deliberating towards a decision. if what you talk about is advocacy, you take, this section of the city and you knock on doors there. Here's the draft of the piece where we're going to argue against, the measure or for the measure, whatever it may be. As long as it's confined to advocacy, I would say that would not be deliberating towards a decision. If you start talking about how are we going to deal with this should it pass, and it's going to affect us in this way, then you start edging out of that. But as long as it's confined to the advocacy for or against something you cannot, you actually can as elected do that up there, but it's not deliberating toward a decision that the city can make.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
So, question, Tony, was the signatures that were gathered aren't enough to get on the November ballot, but you're saying they could get on.
No, they could still.
They still have time.
Yes.
They still have time.
So they still have time to get 120.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have 120. They have until May to get it generally, but if they get it in the next 2 weeks, is it August 16th?
August 10th.
August 10th. So they have basically a week. If they get those turned in by them, they'll be in the November ballot.
I got you. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Any questions on that? No? Okay, just a couple quick updates. On Saturday, August 6th from 1 to 4, Barclay Hills Park will have a ribbon cutting event for the new playground site. On Sunday, August 7th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the second annual Oregon Trail Game 5K Run begins on Main Street downtown between 8th and 9th, and registration is open until Saturday. Our volunteer recognition event is August 18th at 5:30 at the end of the Oregon Trail. They'll be hopefully come out and enjoy a concert in the park this night and complimentary meal as an amazing volunteer for our city.
Brought to you by the Optimist Club of Oregon City.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
And then I think we sent out an email, just a reminder to check that and check your calendar and your interest. September 29th through October 1st, League of Oregon Cities annual conference is down at the Salem Convention Center. So if anybody's wishing, September 29th through October 1st. Down at the Salem Convention Center. We also have on Saturday, August 13th, from 10 a.m. to noon, the High Rocks Summer Cleanup with Solve. So you can register at solveoregon.org under their Get Involved events, and then the High Rocks Summer Cleanup. So that'll be an opportunity to help clean up along the Clackamas there by High Rocks. And then last is that we may recall we talked about an Environmental Protection Agency grant that we applied for with Clackamas County and Metro looking at the 99E corridor. It was a $600,000 grant. We were awarded that grant.
Wow.
So that was very exciting.
Wow.
It's for assessments only. So looking at properties, getting to understand what, if any, contaminants there are and putting together that assessment. So it's not for mitigation or cleanup or anything like that, but it could lead to those down the road. So the boundaries are from north of Milwaukee down to the Blue Heron property along 99E. Metro is going to manage that grant on behalf of the three agencies. We're currently preparing an agreement laying out the roles and responsibilities, and so we'll hopefully be bringing that back to you in the next month or so for how we're going to cooperate between Clackamas County and Metro on the grant and the funding and whatnot that's available to us. All the parties will have approximately 4 to 5 representatives that'll sit on an advisory group task force that will, as we identify potential properties, we're hoping that we have so much interest that the task force will then have to make decisions about where those funding would be, what projects would qualify. And obviously Blue Heron is a candidate, but within close proximity to 99 in Oregon City, we may be able to identify additional properties where an assessment would be valuable. So that does conclude my presentations tonight.
No library update.
Uh-oh. Oh, she's hiding back there.
I just want to say I've made several trips to the library since it opened.
It's looking good.
Amazing. But I guess we can cover that in our comments. Okay. Anything else?
That would do it for me tonight.
All right, Brian.
All right, attended the First City Festival. That was quite popular this year, looked like, and stuff. And attended the OCBA, learned a lot about beer. That was very good, William, thank you. And then the Grand Cove groundbreaking. That was a great job. Thank you, Eric, for putting that together. And then the library new edition opening. Very good. I think just watching people walk through the front doors of that place, you know, watching their face, their reactions and stuff is great. So, South Fork Water Board and CIC, and then National Night Out last night. So, yeah.
Renata.
Okay. So I attended the Willamette Falls Partners reception, and then there was a noon meeting about it, and then there was a meeting in the evening, so I learned all about the Riverwalk. I also went to an equitable housing presentation at Metro and learned lots of great ideas about how that could potentially roll out here in Oregon City, and pass that on to Laura. Had a booth at First City Celebration. Met with Sam Drivo a couple times to talk about the waterfront, Whitewater Park idea. Attended the Main Street Economic Revitalization Committee meeting yesterday. There is probably going to be coming a proposal for us for the renovating the Bush Family Warehouse into mixed-use office, or actually like a home office with upstairs apartments, 4 units. So really interesting project. And had a booth at the National Night Out. So that's it.
A lot of the same things. First City Festival was incredible, really cool. The Cove grand opening, or the Cove groundbreaking.
Jumping ahead. It's next.
Was one of those things that we weren't sure would ever happen. So that was amazing. And the library is amazing. I just want to thank all the library staff and Mo for, like, you know, that long process to finally get open. It's still not done. I'm so excited. I think I'm almost more excited to see the Carnegie when that's finished. So really exciting. We had our South Fork meeting where we basically talked about the master plan for the future of South Fork. Not the master plan, but the
capital improvement.
Thank you. National Night Out last night was cool, very cool. I had a booth that I missed the mayor getting attacked by a dog. I really wanted to see that.
Video.
I did see it on video. And I was disappointed. I have nothing else.
But, I'm sorry, I missed one other event. Park Day event sponsored by Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, August 5th, 6 to 8, in conjunction with Movies in the Park. Never-ending story.
Awesome.
Okay, that's it.
I think we are.
Captain Davis, what do you think?
Yeah, your first meeting up here. He reminded me it's his first meeting up here.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.